Good morning. So we're getting started with Gem Wars today. The first thing that we're going to be doing is implementing static event handlers, and static event handlers will make it much easier when we are implementing our multiplayer. So for example, here in my base UI script, which is part of every one of the UI, the on-screen UI of the game, I have this init function, and this init function has a couple of these subscriptions that it's making. Like for example here on the drawer script, we're subscribing it, but we don't need drawer script anymore. What we want is we want to do this with our event handler. So the first thing is that I want to have a new, right here we can say if this is a new game, then we can do this stuff so I don't unsubscribe far too many times. Okay, and then on my awake, protected virtual void awake, this is where I'm going to subscribe my event. So game event handlers dot piece purchased event on piece purchased event. So now we no longer need that one. And then because it's static, I don't need to have a null on it. And we know that we need to unsubscribe it here on the dispose. Okay. We have another one here where this draw had an event called piece purchased, which I was cascading here. But I don't need to do that now. Instead, on my draw container script, same thing that we just did, I'll add a protected virtual void awake. And then it's game event handlers dot piece purchased event plus equals to on piece purchased event. And then also we'll remove that down here on the dispose. And that'll allow us to get rid of a lot of these subscriptions and give us confidence that things are unsubscribing correctly. So if I was to build this now, everything built, let's make sure the game still runs. I just upgraded to 2020 for Unity 2020. So this is free play mode. Looks like it works okay. Let's go to practice. And that's good. So it looks like all the events are still working. And this very much cleans up the code. And it's similar to what Redux does for web programming, where get gems by type, x.block gem does not equal to null, and so here we're going to do this as a toList or toArray. And then here we're going to say if my blocks with gems dot length is greater than 0, then I want to do a return my blocks with gems dot select the block gem dot toArray. Otherwise, you want to return a new gem SO array of type none. And let's turn this into a conditional. We're going to try it again. Same issue here. It's almost going to be the same thing. Blocks with gems equals your blocks where the x.blockGem does not equal to null and your block gem does not equal to null to array. And if my like that. Try it again. Good. Now it's working. Let's make sure that we can go to the next level. And it all looks like it's working. Okay? So we're going to save what I have right now as a time to hours comment, adding serialization to server and static event handlers. Push that out. Now just for a second, I want to check out the monitor project and make sure that that's running correctly and everything's up and going. I mean, it looks like everything should be running. It's a little bit behind now. The website's working though, so it's okay. We'll check it again in a few. It's probably my background service. Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to jump back into the code base and let's change the next one. So we have one here called player currency event. So we're going to change that to be args. And we'll do it manually so that we get all of the errors. And then in here, I want to have a player currency change. And we're going to send in a player currency event args. And then I'm going to add a new one up here called player currency event, like that. Now in the game I should have some errors that I can trace. Here's my onPlayer currency event args. Which is subscribed here. So we're going to get rid of this one, and then I'm going to add a new function here called protected virtual void fire player currency event, which it's going to be a object for the sender, and then a player currency event args. And all you're going to do here is a game event handlers dot, and this is a currency change, and we're going to pass in the sender and the args. And now I'll grab these errors here When you purchase a piece, you want to do game event handler. Oops, it's called. We no longer need this. Yeah, we do. We're going to do this to the sender and the args, which is a new player currency event args. The next one is here. This is another fire player currency event. And we're going to pass in a this and a new currency event args. Add played piece is a fire player currency event of this and a new one. And now here, in awake, I want to do game event handlers dot player currency event plus equals to on player currency event. And then I can get rid of that here. See how much this cleans up the code? Okay, that's good. So let's test it. I just need to get any points here. I didn't see that one update. That's updating. Yeah, that worked. Okay. So that's good. So one thing I wanted to do is make sure that all of my events are being subscribed in the awakes. So we're going to move these two to be in the awake. Okay. Perfect. This one is a protected virtual void awake. And we're going to move this one into it. And that needs to be an override and then a base.awake. We haven't worried about that one yet. Or that one. Or that one. I think that's all of them. Just looking for subscriptions right now. Yep, that's all of them. Okay. Let's make sure everything runs. It should. That shouldn't have changed anything. So this is fairly similar to the way that Redux works, or ngxr-store in Angular, where there's sort of like one central store now, which is containing all of the data, and I'm subscribing to those events. in the beginning one time, and then I just change the state of them as we go. Okay. Just a few more of these. We have a reset game event args. Like that. And that's going to make just a few errors. Here. This is getting referenced by this event, which I can get rid of. And then I want to have in here a new reset game event args called reset game event. So this would be theoretically the same as a reducer, right? It's a little bit different. So this is a reset game event. We're going to say that this is reset game. Like that. And like that. And now in here, I'm going to have a game event handlers.reset game event. And that's going to be on reset. Reset game. Just a second, let me go back on this. Yeah, you don't have anything to subscribe. You're just calling it here. So it's right here in reset game. We're going to do a game event handlers dot reset game, and we're going to pass in this and a new reset game event. So this one gets subscribed up here, which doesn't exist anymore. And this one's going to be a game event handlers. And then in the dispose, I can get rid of it. And that should be it for that one. Okay, we've got two more. Scene change event args. I'm going to make a new folder in here for game. And then I'm going to make another one in here for title. So let's put these in the right namespace. Okay, this one is called Start Game Event Args. We'll just do all of these at the last time. Here. And this one is a Scene Change Event Args. We're going to add this into game here. And in events, I'm going to add a new folder called Event Handlers. Hey, Metin34, I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning? And in here, I want to take my game event handlers and I want to move these into event handlers. And that's all that this has. And so in this one, we're going to have one called public static class called event handlers. And this is going to be called a scene change event. Args. And this is going to be called change scene. And it's going to be this. And then we want one more for my title event handlers. And this one's just going to have a title event args called title event. Sorry, this is called start game. So this is a start game event args. Okay. So now that that's done, we have just a few errors that we need to go clean up now. This start game event is gone. You want to make this a new public override init protected override awake. And all you're going to do is game event. Sorry, this is a this one's not called title. This one is called practice. Or we can just call this battle. Which means that this is called battle event handlers. Perfect. Okay. So here, this is going to be a battle event handlers dot start game event plus equals to on start game event. And then this is also on the dispose. We want to make this args. Then I want to have a protected virtual void called fire start game event, which is an object called the sender and the start game event args, and it's going to be a battle event handlers dot start game with my sender and my args. And then up here, this needs to be the right type. We'll go back to that in a second. That's good. This is fire start game of my sender and my args. Oh, this is not an async handler. This is just a event handler. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild it. We should get more errors here. We can leave these up for now. So one thing that I noticed is that this UI script, when I'm subscribing this, I'm firing this event a second time, but I don't need to because it's already subscribed. So here in my practice game manager, I want to have a protected override called awake, and I want to do my battle event handlers dot start game event plus equals to on start game event. And then when this disposes, I can do a battle event handlers dot start game event minus equals my on start game event. Okay, that's good. Okay, in my UI get ready script, this is where I'm invoking it. So I want to have a protected virtual void fire start game event, which passes in an object of the sender, and a start game event args, just called args. And it's just going to be a battle event handlers dot start game of my sender and my args. And then this one is going to be a fire start game event, and we don't need to pass this in with anything. Okay, this one's on my title manager. So here we're going to do the same thing, protected override awake, and I'm going to do a battle, sorry, it's a event handlers dot change scene event plus equals to on scene change event. And then down here on the dispose, it's going to be the opposite. And then we want to look at this because this is a regular handler, not an async one. Okay, this one, we're going to have a new function in it called protected virtual void fire scene change, and it's going to be an object for the sender and a scene change event args called args. And all it's going to do is my event handlers dot scene change scene. It's going to be the sender and the args. And this is going to be a fire scene change now. Oh, you need to make sure that you put the nullable in there. Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because we're doing everything through functions, okay? So this one, we'll just move this up here. And then same with this one. Okay, that's done. The next ones are here. My player currency event is a regular handler. So that means that this needs to have the new references. And the same thing here. The same thing here. This one as well. Okay, this one we want to have a protected virtual void fire purchase piece event, which is an object sender, and the purchase piece event args. It's called piece purchased event args. And all you're going to do here is your game event handlers dot purchase piece sender and the args. And so up here you can do a fire purchase piece event. These ones are easy. 17 errors almost done. Okay, we want to have a new function on this one called protected virtual void fire place piece. Is it called placed piece or piece place? Fired piece placed event with an object and my sender, and my piece placed event args called the args. Like that. Okay. This next one is my new player event. That's very straightforward. We have on drag events. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, this one you want to have a new function called protected virtual void fire drag event object sender and a drag event args called args. And it's going to be a game event handler dot drag event of my sender and my args. That's called drag piece. And this is going to be a fire drag event. And this is the last one. In my HTTP manager, I need to have one for a fire player new event called a player new event. New player event args. Fire new player event. And if I look at this, it's an await, so that's right. This is new player event args. No, hold on. These don't look right. These are still using these payloads, so we need to get rid of those. And now this is a game. Don't you have something here for HTTP handlers? This is in events. This is in HTTP events. And then you want to have a new folder in here called args. We're going to copy this one into events. I'm going to call this a HTTP event handler. Scripts, HTTP events. offline new player right. None of this one. In your HTTP manager, your HTTP event handlers. You've got this one called offline event args, called offline event, and another one called payload received event. And then we're going to have these next two for the offline asynchronous. And then a payload received event args. And this one is called payload received asynchronous. Okay. Scripts, HTTP events args. Okay, so here in your HTTP manager, you want to have a HTTP event handlers dot new player. New player asynchronous of my args, my sender and my args, and then you want to await this. This one is payload received, and this one is offline asynchronous. So back in HTTP Manager, when you're getting your payload, this is going to be a fire new player event of my null and a new player args. And this is an asynchronous function, so you need to await it. This one is going to do the same thing, except it's going to be fire payload received event. And this one's going to be an await fire offline event. Like that. And then we can get rid of the namespaces that we don't need. So now new player event is a game event handler. That's an HTTP event handler. And then this is a HTTP event handlers as well. And then we need to update these. Now we only have one error left, which is there. We rebuild it, we should be good to go. And we should be done with our static event handlers. Okay. We're going to take one more look now at my TCP folder. We're going to add in a new folder here called args. Move these in. Create a new class here called TCP event handlers. I'm going to move this event handlers out to scripts. Okay. So now in my TCP handlers, I'm going to make this a static class, and I want to have a public event called a game event handler of a type called a connection event args, called a connection event. One for the error event and one for a message event. And then I want to have a public static. If I look at my connection, these things are asynchronous at the moment. So this needs to be the asynchronous handler. Here are my my fire functions. So we'll change these to be public static. Okay, that should be it for the handler. We're going to change this to be called a connection event asynchronous, an error event asynchronous, and a message event asynchronous. In here, we want to put these all as .args. Okay, so over here now we're going to have a few errors. We need to have our functions down here for my protected virtual asynchronous task of a fire message event asynchronous of an object sender, and my message event args called args. And all you're going to do is an await TCP event handlers dot message event asynchronous sender args. This one is a fire connection event asynchronous with a connection event like that, and a connection event args. And the last one here is error event with an error event args and a error events asynchronous. We'll fix that one error there. It's probably going to tell me this is this one. So this is now going to be a perfect. There. 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 Okay, and now in the handler, we need to add these. Okay, we have just a few errors left to fix, which is here in my TCP manager. Just a second. So what I'm thinking about right now is that I currently have a managing class which manages this connection. By making those events not static there, but called in this instance, I could just flat call them from the manager, which is static. But one of the big things that so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a TCP event handlers dot message event. And then the same thing here. Okay, so now when I look at my stop connection, that should be in the dispose, and it is. And we're done. Okay, let's give it a run. It's looking good. Okay. Let's go ahead and commit this out. And we're going to say added static event handlers and commit it. Push that out. All right. Let's get started on the next piece.